think, again, this is the classic sign of alt season. I think somewhere here, once it breaks this, then we're going back up here. And that'll be the start of something much bigger, I think. And then we get the leg higher. That leg higher should be, all of June should be strong. All of July should be strong. August should be more complicated, which is what we've been saying, which should be phase 2 of the correction of the banana zone.
오늘은 리얼비전의 CEO 라울 팔이 예측하는 암호화폐 시장 전망을 들어보겠습니다. 라울 팔은 경험이 풍부한 투자자의 날카로운 시선과 함께 비트코인과 거대한 암호화폐 시장을 항상 주시하고 있는 인물이죠. 경제의 불확실성이 커지는 상황 속에서도 항상 코인의 중요성을 인식하고 있으며 경제 지표뿐 아니라 암호화폐 가격의 상승에 대해 이야기하곤 합니다. 이런 그가 현재 암호화폐 시장이 기술적 신호와 함께 알트코인 시즌의 전형적 전조를 보이고 있다고 전망합니다.
So, firstly, Bitcoin dominance. This was trying to get to the 9. It kind of would have been 9 that day. I put out that tweet saying Bitcoin dominance has peaked, and it peaked. It went up, put in another 9, and I think it's going to continue to fall from here. So that's like the start of the alt season. But really, it won't fall until we start getting below this kind of 61.5 level, something like this, 62. If it does that, then the much bigger game is at play, I think.
Well, if that's right, we just retested and push lower.
Solana, again, it's got this 13 like Bitcoin has. Looks like it's a wedge. There was that spike, but generally it was like this inverse head and shoulders, a bit of chopping around here. Next leg will be higher. When that is, whether we need to go a bit lower first. Suri was the kind of saying to me, if I actually go to my normal Suri chart, I think this is some sort of flaggy pattern. This is obviously we have to ignore because that spike and down and back up again. But somewhere here is some sort of just corrective pattern like we've seen a million times in the past. Doesn't yet look like it wants to break higher. So I don't know what's chopping the market, but maybe it's just the M2 chart that we looked at before. You know, there's just a bit of chop to be had still, just as everyone starts getting really bullish because everybody's opening one of these new kind of MicroStrategy copies and everything else. So I think that ETH, I've not been using these charts a little for a bit, but ETH just continues to look good from every level. Where's my... It all looks good. I mean, it's just rejected here. Maybe this all comes down, back down to 2,300 or so before then finally making the break. Doesn't feel wildly unlikely. And then because those are doing that, everything's doing the same. I mean, ETH, Bitcoin, same. There's like an inverse head and shoulders here. I think, again, this is the classic sign of alt season. I think somewhere here, once it breaks this, then we're going back up here. And that'll be the start of something much bigger, I think, finally. And that's the classic sign of some sort of alt season. So there's not really much to report right now. As you said, things are kind of in this corrective pattern. Doesn't look a long-term thing. It looks like it's kind of next week or something like that. The other one is 10-year yields. 10-year yields on the weekly have gone nowhere. So everyone's all fretting and screaming and shouting about yields and the world's going to end. Nothing has happened. But when I look at the daily, we've got a chance that yields are going to... We've got this 13 and this 9, but we had no 13 there. Whether we come back down, it feels like more like 2017 where yields actually don't go anywhere.
Yeah, that's what I have been saying. And I saw the 9 as well on DMARC, and I feels like they'll come lower.
And the dollar, you know, it tried to push higher yesterday, tried to push higher today, and it's just come smashing back down again. But the 9 and 13 count is something to take very seriously. It's going to give us a signal for what happens at the back end of the year. But if we go back to that chart you were showing of 2017, it's kind of suggesting that, you know, these corrective patterns eventually fall away. The market digests this huge move that we had. It's a monstrous move. And then we go to another leg lower where we think it probably goes to somewhere between 95 and 90. Well, certainly nothing in equity land is bearish, but we're getting at levels of all-time highs where you get a bit of congestion. That would make sense. Nothing in crypto concerns me in any way, shape or form. It's just chopping around here. Feels like we're just going to be weaker for a bit, digesting various bits of news before we have the next leg.
It's also, you know, just to put things into perspective, since our flash update on the 7th of April, the S&P 500's up 22%, the Nasdaq's up 29%, Bitcoin's up, as I had said earlier, 46%, Solana's up 84%, ETH is up 93%, and SUI's up 116%. And now the market's overbought. That's all that's happening here. And the thing that I pointed out yesterday is that, when you think about like pure quant hedge funds, or whether they're momentum based or however you want to think about that, some of these funds go straight to net short on an overbought reading, right? So this is just profit taking. That's all it is. So the market's digesting the news. We're overbought. Certain people are, taking profit with the hope of buying a bit lower, whatever that is. So that's just why I think we're kind of chopping and people are waiting around for something to happen. But
Yeah.
we're digesting a big move in markets.
And, it's really interesting to see how strong the ETH narrative comes back. And I've been saying it for a while, is like, people can write off ETH, they're ridiculous. ETH has enormous amounts going for it. And now we've seen this new MicroStrategies version by Joe Lubin of buying ETH. I also think the financial system uses ETH a lot more. And I think ETH outperforms Bitcoin all the rest of the cycle now. And that's not uncommon. So
if we're right about the ISM, then that's how it should play out.
That's right. And Solana should over time outperform ETH, but ETH's got catch up to do, so it's all correct. It will be corrective on that cross, but eventually Solana should outperform it, and SUI should outperform Solana. I don't see any reason why any of that. In fact, I haven't looked at the SUI Sol chart a bit. So this is the daily SUI Sol. This 13, I don't think actually is correct because it's below everything. Doesn't seem to make sense. So it looks like it's a corrective flag pattern, and then we should see the next push higher. So let's see if it looks any different more weekly. No, I think this should be a corrective flag pattern, and then when we break higher, it'll be some sort of cup and handle or whatever, and that'll push us to the next level, back up to maybe the highs. So I think everything looks as expected. I think it's going to be boring for a few days. There's not much more to talk about. It's kind of everything's on track. Just a bit of overbought digestion. I think we should get that in equities at some point as well, because they've had this monstrous movement back to all-time highs there and thereabouts. You probably get a bit of congestion, a bit of profit taking, and then we get the leg higher. That leg higher should be, all of June should be strong, all of July should be strong, August should be more complicated, which is what we've been saying, which should be phase two of the correction of the banana zone. I think the other thing to bear in mind is that if there is a dip near all-time highs and the economic data is improving, that dip will be bought because it has to be by the institutions and the hedge funds. So that again sets us up into a very strong back end of the year.
라울 8은 비트코인 도미넌스가 고점을 찍고 하락하기 시작했고 이더리움, 솔라나, 수이 등 주요 알트코인들이 역헤드 앤 숄더와 같은 강세 패턴을 형성 중이라고 설명합니다. 현재는 조정 구간으로 강한 상승 직전의 횡보 단계에 있다고 판단하고 있죠. 또한 7월엔 강세장 본격화가 시작된다고 보고 있습니다. 이후에는 조정 구간과 함께 사이클의 마지막이자 강한 폭등 구간이 도래할 가능성을 얘기합니다. 우리는 객관적인 시각으로 투자를 해야 하고 지금 당장만 보고 투자할 게 아니라 미래를 보고 투자를 해야겠죠. 010-2472-0429 전화번호로 탈겜이 적어서 문자 보내주시면 2025년 비트코인과 코인 시장에 대한 분석 정보들 공유해드리겠습니다. 현재 우리에게 중요한 것은 이러한 정보를 어떻게 활용할 것인가입니다. 지금까지 영상 시청해주셔서 감사하고요. 다음에 더 좋은 영상으로 찾아뵙겠습니다. 감사합니다.